far. All right, Cappy, we've asked a lot of questions today in the first hour of the show about the Los Angeles Lakers. Brian Windhorst joins us here, fresh off the set, the countdown set. He was on NBA Today, today on ESPN. He is the host of the Hoop Collective podcast. Make sure you subscribe to it wherever you find your podcasts. He does fantastic work there multiple times a week, giving you the best NBA information around. So, Windy, let's start with this. It seems fairly obvious to anyone with eyeballs that this Lakers team seems incredibly disconnected. I think it's really troublesome. You're talking about LeBron and AD only missing 5 games collectively, and they're still in this kind of rut that they've been in. When we started the show today, what kind of popped into my head, and I was telling Cappy, was it reminds me of the old Riley adage of the disease of me, where guys are kind of feeling themselves a little bit, and it's not even the star guys. It's kind of the role players, which leads to me like, hey, this thing needs a shakeup in the biggest way. How do you feel about what should happen and what could happen?
Yeah, there's nobody overachieving. I think AD is achieving. He's playing great, but he's a great player. Otherwise, there's really nobody overachieving. Maybe Max Christie. And so I think really what you're getting at, look, they've played 39 games. And I know that they've had some injuries to their role players. Obviously Rui's battled it, has been out, and some Gabe Vincent. But, go look at every team in the league. Every team in the league's got players out. I mean, this is kind of who they are. And I think one of the things that the team has maybe come to terms with is that, they're just, this collection is just, it's not a good team. I think at times they can be good. They had a set of circumstances that fit last year. They obviously played great in the in-season tournament, but we've watched a lot of games, and it's just the collection isn't spectacular. And so I do think they're going to try to find a move or two that helps them, that can sort of unlock their situation. And look, the hard part is done. The hard part is getting the star players. They have them. They're healthy. They're playing well. I think they do need to make a tweak. One of the big things is they have moved away from having either Austin Reeves or D'Lo start at point guard. So now your starting point guard is LeBron, and while he can obviously do it, his numbers have dipped and his energy level has dipped as he's had to run the point. Now it was awesome, like the other day when he's making 8 assists to AD and they're running that pick and roll. There's a reason why they're doing that, but I know he had 12 for the game, but 8 of them were to AD. But it's just that doesn't maximize him, and so I do think they're in the market for a guard. I do think that's what they're going to spend the next few weeks seeing if they can find one.
Windy, one of the things you guys were talking about today on NBA Today was the possibility of trading both Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura. Do you think the Lakers front office has come to grips with being willing to give up on those two guys right now?
No, not necessarily. I think the key was on Monday, both of those guys are eligible to be traded. I think there's a difference between saying you're eligible to be traded and that they will be traded. I think when you look at the Lakers roster, there are two things that have value in the market. That's Austin Reeves. And it's not because Austin is going to go to the Hall of Fame, but it's because Austin's age plus talent plus contract, he is underpaid, makes him attractive. It's the combination of those. Austin Reeves is more desired than Zach LaVine. This is a nuanced thing, and I think people will hear that and get it confused. It's not to say that Austin Reeves is a better player than Zach LaVine, but Austin's contract plus age plus health, all that is a more attractive package than Zach LaVine plus his contract plus his injury history. So that is an attractive asset. And then the first-round pick that they can trade, which is either in 29 or 30, they can trade it either or, but not both, is attractive. So most teams in any conversation with the Lakers are going to ask for one or both of those things. And so if you're having a realistic conversation, you're probably not going to make a significant trade unless you give up at least one, if not both of those things. That's just being realistic. The one thing that I think is interesting to realize is that last summer when D'Angelo Russell did his contract, he had the option to have veto power in that deal. And you're just going to have to trust me. This is not a podcast. I will not go into a 5-minute explanation as to why. What you need to know is that he had the chance in his contract to have veto power, and the Lakers were able to negotiate where he passed on that. And my guess is they gave him more money to do so. I don't know that. But that means that normally a player on a contract like D'Angelo has, where they have 1 year plus a player option, they would have the ability to veto trade. That is not the case. So Russell is tradable, which I think is important to realize when you think about what sort of package the Lakers could put together.
Brian Windhorst, ESPN NBA insider, host of the Hoop Collective podcast. Make sure you listen, subscribe to his podcast wherever you find your podcasts. So the Dejounte Murray story, okay? What is the likelihood of Dejounte Murray ending up a Laker? What would need to happen for that to be the case in your estimation?
Yeah, I think it's on the board. I really do think Zach LaVine is not on the board, and I think there's two reasons for that. One, his contract. With where the Lakers are at, commitment-wise for AD and LeBron, and, you have to believe LeBron's going to be on that roster next year at that $50 million figure. It's very hard to build a team in the new rules if you have a third max player. And if you do have a third max player, that guy better be an absolute stud. Not a max player 3 years ago, a max player now. So that third player, that third salary, if you have two maxes, is very important. And I just don't think Zach LaVine fits what the Lakers want. Also, he doesn't play both ends of the floor. They need somebody who plays both ends of the floor. Dejounte Murray fits. He plays both ends of the floor. His contract is 8 figures per year, less than Zach LaVine's. He's in a new deal, a deal that, keeps him in that number for a long time. And he's younger and, no injury history. He isn't a great shooter. So that would be the one thing that you'd love if you're a Laker. If you're the Lakers, you'd love to get a guy that stretches the floor. But he fits what the Lakers are looking for more than Zach LaVine on a number of fronts. But, of course, a lot of teams like him. And the other thing is that, the Hawks traded 3 first-round picks to get him. 3. So if they're going to move off of him, which I do think they are going to, they're in active talks with a number of teams about him, you're not getting them for, the poo-poo platter. It's going to take some good assets. And the question is in that type of trade, can the Lakers get away with not putting both of their prime assets in there, being Reeves or the pick? And they get away with putting one in there. And, there's also pick swaps and other things like that. I'm not going to speculate on because I don't know what they've talked about. But I do think they've had a conversation or two, and I do think that's on the board.
Is the poo-poo platter good or bad? Because I like a nice poo-poo platter.
It depends on which end you're talking about.
Well, did you say, I just want to make sure I was clear on what you said. Did you say Murray is or is not a great shooter?
He's not.
He's not. Ideally, if you're the Lakers, who are not a great shooting team, you would want, if you were constructing a perfect player, you'd want a guy who's a really good outside shooter. Yeah. You can go find games where Murray has shot the ball well, and he obviously can score. But he's
actually shooting a career high right now from 3, but it's not. But it has throughout his career. To Brian's point, he has been a below average shooter from 3.
I guess the reason I'm asking that, I wanted clarification on that, is because the one problem this Laker roster seems to have had, and LeBron started complaining about it literally game 1 of not this year, last year. We don't have any lasers. Why can the Lakers not seem to find, or perhaps maybe you've got an idea of who it should be, who could be a great three-point shooter that could fit with this team?
Well, the problem is that, the Lakers had some of those players, and they elected to trade some of them for Russell Westbrook. And, the Lakers have acquired a couple of good outside shooters in recent years, and for various reasons, haven't been able to hold on to him. I mean, the Malik Monk is a good shooter. Lonnie Walker has been a good shooter. He wasn't great with the Lakers, but he can be. They've tried. The thing is, the Lakers have these 2 stars, which they, have a lot invested in. They don't go to the store and pick out from 17 different players. They're limited in what they can, and who they can acquire, because they already have great players on their roster. So, but also I think, one of the things that Rob Pelinka has felt was important was defenders. When he made those trades last year, he really wanted defenders. Vanderbilt isn't a great shooter, but he is a good defender. Rui Hachimura, he shot the ball well in the playoffs last year, but the reason they liked him is because he's an athletic guy who can defend multiple positions. One of the reasons they've had success is because they've had good defenders. They were an elite defensive team at times, and so I think they prioritize that a little bit more than shooting. It doesn't mean that that's wrong, but, shooting is something that's at a premium for every team in the league.
Brian, one last thing before we let you go, and thank you for the time. There's been a lot of chatter about Darin Ham and his stability within the organization. What can you say to that?
I don't think, I would say you would never talk in absolutes in the NBA ever, because I've just been around. You'd never say that. But short of that, Darin Ham's footing is very safe. I can't tell you what's going to happen in 6 months, but I would remove that as a topic of conversation. There's a lot more going on than that situation.
All right, cool. So now all of my Twitter trolls can just stop and leave me alone, and we'll just play your comment.
I wonder why that is, though. Like, why is that? Why is he so
They don't like him because they say he puts his hands in his pockets or whatever.
No, but the opposite. Why is it that ownership and management loves him so much to say, hey, don't worry about it?
Well, first off, they hired him. That's number one.
Okay.
Second off, I think last year they went through some tough times, and he was a steadying voice, and they respected the way he righted the ship and kept improving and was able to get that team to play its best basketball when it mattered. They also saw how he performed with his game plans and stuff in the in-season tournament. You can poo-poo that. It's not nothing. Like, there's a counterbalance. Yes. Do I think that he has played some lineups this year that have been questionable?
Yes.
I think some of his decisions with how he's decided to align the team in these first quarters has been questionable. Yes, I do. But the counterbalance is he's gotten some good stuff on the ledger. But beyond that, beyond the analysis, I'm just telling you, I have conversations with people. I know his backing is rock solid.
Interesting. There you have it.
All
So
right.
Brian Windhorst, ESPN NBA Insider. Check him out on NBA Countdown today, obviously during the season on NBA Today. And make sure you subscribe to the Man's Podcast, the Hoop Collective Podcast, wherever you find your podcast. Windy, have a great weekend, man. Thanks for squeezing us in.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy it. Take care.
Yeah.
See ya.
Windy had a great hair day today, too, on TV.
Oh, he's always got
really,
his hair is on point, dog.
Yeah, but I mean, solid. I mean, today I noticed, I was like, wow, Windy, I'm taking a look at you, man. I'm doing some analysis on you because I know you're coming up on the show. Good, strong, solid, not one hair out of place, not one hair moving. As a solid hair day for Windy.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I asked him about the Brownies real quick before we went on the air.
Jesus.
You asked him about what?
The Browns, because he's a Browns fan.
Because he grew up in Ohio.
He's from Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He's not feeling so great because of C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
C.J. Stroud